Well, students, I'm excited to be working on some Sumi dragons today. The first thing I would like you to do is to get your name on here. It would be important also to just put your class code. And once that's done, then you can flip it over. And we're going to start with, there are two papers at your table. One of them is this brown paper and it says start line on it. I would like you to see this little dashed line right here. You're just gonna make like a little line. You could make it just kind of this way, or it could go up and down, but that's gonna be your start line. It's just off that line a little bit. And draw it lightly. And then this other paper is a black paper, and on one side it says head. And then above these lines, these are the lines that you're going to make just above this. Just make a light line. These are gonna be lines that are gonna be used for measurement. So now I'm gonna take those, I'm done with those, and I'm done with pencil. The first brush to use is this larger brush. Something I want you to do is just make sure you dip it in, but wipe it off, get a lot of that water off. You can see I'm wiping it off. That's my third time, this is the fourth time, and the fifth time. Today that's a little bit different than when we did the bamboo, is that you are gonna get paint on the whole thing. So I am gonna get paint on it, but I don't wanna get too much paint on it. You can see I've got a little test paper, and I'm only gonna test a little bit. It's pretty dark, so I can just take it and then dip just a little bit in the water. I didn't dip the whole thing in. And I'm gonna take a little bit of that paint off using some water, and I'll just test a little bit above it. So it's a light gray. That's what you want. It's always better to start off with something that's light and then gradually make it get darker. So this is my start line. This is where I'm gonna start, and I'm gonna go down, and I'm gonna touch this line, and then I'm gonna go up, and then I'm gonna go back down. You can see their lines are really close together, and then I'm gonna touch that line, back up, and then I'm gonna go down, and then I'm gonna go over. You can see it's really light. I can take it now, and I am gonna put a little bit more black paint on it. I'm wiping my brush off, getting a lot of that water off. I'm gonna dip it in, just take a little bit of that paint off. Let's do like a tiny test, because somebody else is gonna be using this too. That's a little bit more gray. And you can see here, I'm just gonna do it one more time. And you can see that I'm going really slow. There's no reason to go fast, okay? Now, once I have that painted, you can see it looks kind of like a letter M. Then I'm gonna switch, and when I'm done with this brush, I can just wipe it off and set it back on the red towel. This medium brush is gonna be used here to do the head of the dragon. And here, I'm really kind of thinking, and you're welcome to make this mark with your pencil too. I didn't mark this, but you can make a mark here that's just light, halfway between the top and the bottom. That's a good place to start for the head. And you can see I got paint on it, I dipped it in. Gonna take some of the paint off, I'm gonna do a little check. That's okay, it's a light gray. And I'm gonna start on that line that I just marked with my pencil. I'm just gonna make a diagonal line that comes up. And then it makes a mark there, so you wanna make sure that you kind of brush that in to the dragon. So then I'm gonna start kind of on the inside of that, and I'm gonna make another line that goes up. So those two lines are kind of diagonal lines, and then I'm gonna kind of fill this space in. So wherever there's a little bit of water pooling up or a little bit of paint, you can just make that and continue kind of on that M around. So take your time. Now once I have the body and the head of my dragon, then I am going to dip my brush in, take some of the water off. I'm gonna set it back on my red towel. I'm gonna switch over here to this brush. This brush is gonna be good to start doing, I usually start with the teeth. The very last things I'm gonna paint is the eye. And some of you might do the eye next week, because we want the this area right here to be pretty dry before you paint on it. So Don't do the eye, move to the teeth. So you can see I'm twisting my brush, making sure my brush is in a point, and look at how I'm gonna hold my brush. I'm gonna hold it kind of with my finger out, and I'm gonna stamp it, and then I'm gonna pick it up. Stamp it, pick it up. And this will make my teeth, and every so often I'm gonna take this and get more black paint on it. When that is done, I find it the easiest to just turn the paper rather than turning my brush. I can take it and turn this around like this, and then I can stamp these ones in, and you can see they would go in between that. Get a little more paint. Keep it in a point. And going slow. Now I'm going to turn this back to how it was. And now I'm noticing I should have more paint. Those are pretty gray. So don't be afraid to take it and get more paint. Most of the time with this, this brush, I'm not rinsing it all the way off. I'm keeping it very dark. When I am done doing the teeth, then I'm going to keep the black paint on this brush. I'm just gonna set it here so it's not getting the towel all dirty. But I'm gonna switch back to this brush, and that's given this time to dry for the legs. So I'm gonna get some black paint on here, dip it in, take a little bit of that off. It's a dark gray, I don't want too much water on it. Now, the front leg is kind of like a 7, and it's gonna be like right below the top of the head. So you can see I'm right here. Sometimes students start down at the bottom. Nope. You wanna start up here in the body, and I'm gonna go over, and then I'm gonna go down, and the leg is gonna stop right at the end here. Then the back leg starts, this is kind of the bump number 1, bump number 2. It's gonna start up here. It's not gonna start at the bottom, and I'm gonna go over, down like a 7, but I'm gonna turn it into a Z. Now, if there's water that's pooling up, wipe your brush off, and then take some of that water off. Now, that'll help it dry a little bit faster. And you could even use the towel to help dry it off if needed, but my brushes are on it. So here, I'm gonna wipe this off, set that down. Now, I'm gonna work on the head. A few things that could be good to do there would be outlining the teeth. So here, I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna go around these. Then I'm gonna outline around here. Then I'm gonna outline the jaw. If it's starting to dry kind of gray, get more paint on your brush. Don't rinse your brush off all the way though. Then I'm gonna outline this area. And I'm gonna do outlining of the head. When that's done, I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the teeth along the back. So you could outline this. So you can see the back of the dragon. My brush is getting a little bit too wide. You can see that was a pretty thick line. And I'm not outlining the tail, or the leg right there, because the leg is here, so I'm gonna go around that. And now I outline the tail. Now just like I did the teeth, I'm gonna take this and I'm going to stamp some scales along the back. So starting here, I'm just gonna stamp this. I'm gonna leave a little bit of space between them for little ones. So here, get a little bit more paint. And if you need to turn your paper, you may. I'm not turning my paper because I don't want this to go off the screen and make it be able for you to see it on the video. So you can definitely turn your paper if needed. And I'm gonna stamp those all along the tail of my dragon. Then I'm going to make some of them a little bit smaller in between. So here, I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna make this just a little bit of a smaller scale in between those. So that's why I left space, because if they touch each other, they will start to kind of mix together. So just adding details along the way. Now, if there is time and your paper is dry, then you can paint the eye of your dragon and the nose of your dragon. If you don't get a chance to do that today, no big deal. We can do that next time. Let me show you a couple ways to do the eye of the dragon that I think will work well. I'm gonna keep my brush in a nice point, trying to make this very black. And I'm going to make kind of a diagonal line first. The eye is kind of up in this space. So I'm gonna make kind of a diagonal line, and then underneath this, I'll make a curved line. I wanna make it big enough. Then I'm gonna put a circle inside that. Once I have the eye done, if I do want to add like a little bit of a line for maybe like an eyebrow or some detail, you can. And for the nose, I usually am right down here, kind of with it like a C shape, and then I'll put like a little C inside it. If there's extra time, you may do a little bit of detail, like maybe I want to make him look a little more ferocious with some lines on the snout of his dragon, or the nose and the snout here, or making some of these lines a little bit darker, some of these dried kind of gray, so you can make those darker. You as well can outline these lines. I just would not outline down at the very bottom. So here, if you have time, you can outline that 7 and then outline this Z. Now, anything you don't do today, it's okay. You can do the rest of this stuff next week when we do the talons and we do the scales and stuff. So let's have fun working on these. Please take your time. And when we're finished, you can just rinse off your brush, wipe it off, and we'll put these brushes on the red towel.